welcome to the deep dive. Usually when you buy a drink, it's just a profoundly simple transaction.
Right, yeah.
Like you walk in, you grab a bottle of water,
Yeah.
you hand over your card, and you walk out. It's entirely functional.
Hmm.
But then you walk into a modern coffee shop.
Oh, totally different experience.
Completely.
Yeah.
Suddenly it feels like you've just, stepped off a plane in a foreign country.
Right.
The menu above the counter looks less like a list of drinks and more like a periodic table of elements.
Yeah, that is incredibly accurate.
And the person in front of you is barking out this entire paragraph of instructions to the cashier. And there's this unspoken choreography to where you stand, how you wait, what you do with your hands.
I mean, it is incredibly intimidating if you aren't familiar with it. The coffee shop has, it's completely evolved from a place of business into this highly complex cultural theater.
Right.
You aren't just buying a beverage anymore. You are actively navigating a micro-society.
And if you don't know the lines to the play, you're going to hold up the line.
Exactly. You become the villain of the morning commute.
Yeah, nobody wants that. And that is exactly what we are getting into today, because for you listening, coffee is a global language. Whether you are, trying to impress a client at a business meeting or navigating the incredibly awkward waters of a first date.
Oh, the worst.
Or you just desperately need a caffeine fix while traveling abroad, understanding this culture is just essential. We're pulling our insights today from a really fantastic educational transcript by the channel Speak English with David and Alice, which focuses on how English speakers actually talk about and interact with coffee.
It's a great source. It really shows how coffee is a mirror, reflecting our daily habits, our social needs, and even our relationship with time itself.
Totally. And honestly, I couldn't think of a better guide to help decode the deeper meaning behind all these everyday caffeine interactions than you.
Well, I am fully caffeinated and ready to go. Because the way we talk about and interact with just, a simple roasted bean, it reveals so much about who we are.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we can talk about the culture of coffee, we really have to talk about the chemistry in the cup.
The foundation.
Right. I think a lot of people, they just order blindly without understanding the actual mechanics of extraction. Like, for you listening, how often do you order blindly versus knowing exactly how the bean was processed? We know coffee starts as a green bean and it has to be roasted. But what is actually happening inside that roaster that dictates whether I'm going to get, say, a light, delicate cup or a dark, bitter one?
Right. So it all comes down to a chemical process called the Maillard reaction.
Okay.
And this is actually the exact same reaction that browns a steak or, turns bread dough into crusty toast.
Oh, wow. I wouldn't have connected those.
Yeah. So when those raw, green, kind of grassy tasting coffee beans hit high heat, the amino acids and sugars inside them start reacting. They break down and they recombine to form hundreds of entirely new flavor compounds.
So the roaster is basically like playing a game of chicken with the heat.
Precisely. If you pull the beans out early, which gives you a light roast, you preserve the original organic characteristics of the bean itself.
So you get what exactly?
You get fruity, floral, very acidic notes. It's delicate. But if you leave them in longer for a dark roast, you're actually burning off those original flavors and replacing them with the flavor of the roast itself.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the sugars caramelize and then they actually begin to carbonize, which is why dark roasts taste, heavier, smokier, and far more bitter.
Which brings us to the actual brewing.
Yeah.
Because we take those roasted beans when we grind them up. But the size of that grind matters immensely, doesn't it? Like, why does the hot water care how big the pieces of coffee are?
It's all about surface area and solvency. Hot water acts as a solvent. Its entire job is to dissolve the oils, the acids, and the caffeine trapped inside the cellular structure of the bean.
Okay.
So if you grind the coffee very fine, like powdered sugar, you expose a massive amount of surface area. The water can extract those compounds almost instantly.
But if you grind it coarse...
Right. If you grind it coarse, like sea salt, the water has to work much harder and for much longer to actually penetrate the particles.
I see. It's like, well, it's the difference between flash frying a super thin slice of meat versus slow cooking a massive brisket.
That is a brilliant way to look at it. Yeah. Take an espresso, for example. You use a very fine grind, and you force highly pressurized hot water through it for just about 25 seconds.
Just 25 seconds.
Yeah. It's a violent, rapid extraction. That's your flash frying. It produces a tiny, incredibly dense, intense shot of coffee.
But if you want cold brew, you do the brisket method.
Exactly. Cold brew uses cold water, which is Honestly, a terrible solvent compared to hot water. So to compensate for that, you use a very coarse grind and you just let it steep for 12 to 24 hours, low and slow.
And that changes the flavor.
Completely. Because there's no heat, you never extract the harsh, bitter tannins that boiling water pulls out. You just get this incredibly smooth, mellow liquid.
That makes so much sense. And if we look at the modern menu, an espresso shot is basically the foundation of a house.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, like you can build a really simple rustic cabin on that foundation, just add hot water, and you get an Americano. But things get complicated when you want to build a bigger house, and milk enters the chat.
They certainly do.
You have lattes, cappuccinos, flat whites. What is the actual mechanical difference here when we're adding milk?
Well, it's all about the texture of the milk, which is created by injecting steam. A latte is mostly smooth, liquid steamed milk with just a tiny bit of microfoam on top, so it's sweet and creamy.
Right. And a cappuccino,
A cappuccino heavily aerates the milk to create a thick, pillowy layer of stiff foam. So with a cappuccino, you're tasting the texture just as much as the coffee.
which brings to mind a really fantastic cultural rule from Italy regarding the cappuccino.
Oh, the afternoon rule.
Yes, you do not order it after lunch. Like, if you try to order a cappuccino at 3 in the afternoon in Rome, the barista will look at you like you just asked for a bowl of cereal at a fancy steakhouse. Why is that such a hard line for them?
It's deeply rooted in Italian ideas about digestion. Milk is considered really heavy, like almost a meal in itself.
Okay.
So having a stomach full of hot milk after a large pasta lunch is viewed as completely disruptive to your digestion. For Italians, the cappuccino is strictly a morning ritual to start the day.
But those rituals evolve as they cross borders, right?
Mhm.
We see the flat white, which originated in Australia and New Zealand, just absolutely taking over the globe.
Yeah, it really has. It's smaller than a latte, so there's less milk, meaning the espresso flavor punches through much stronger.
And then on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you have the Frappuccino, which, if we go back to the house analogy, is the neon-lit, sprawling mansion of the coffee world.
It really is. It's blended ice, milk, syrups, topped with whipped cream and caramel drizzle. And this represents a massive shift in modern society.
How so?
Well, we've moved from coffee as a purely utilitarian substance, that quick functional punch of energy from a traditional espresso, to coffee as an aesthetic, highly customizable luxury item.
Right, it's highly Instagrammable.
Exactly. It's no longer just about the caffeine. It's a treat. It's visual. It's an accessory you hold in your hand as you walk down the street.
Which brings us to the actual transaction,
Yeah.
the anxiety-inducing part at the register. We know the chemistry of what's in the cup now, but navigating the linguistics of ordering is an entirely different beast. In an English-speaking environment, this process is just incredibly hyper-specific.
It is. The standard interaction starts simply enough. The barista asks, "What can I get for you?" And the natural response is, "Can I have whatever it is." But the rest of the customer's response is where the modern desire for control really shines through. People don't just want coffee anymore. They want their exact coffee.
Right, the customizations are endless. Oat milk, almond milk, soy milk, coconut milk, extra shots, half calf, no foam.
Oh.
You hear people rattling off orders that sound like launch codes, like, can I get a large iced soy latte with 2 extra shots, no foam, light ice, and exactly 1 pump of vanilla?
And the barista just has to translate and transcribe that perfectly in real time. It's amazing.
It is. But I have to push back on one part of this ordering culture, and that is the sizing, specifically the Starbucks sizing convention.
Oh boy, here we go.
I just feel like it is a trap designed to cause psychological distress. Tall is small. Grande is medium. Venti is large. Let's just focus on tall for a second. Naming your smallest possible cup tall is a complete linguistic paradox. Isn't that designed to just cause panic at the register?
What's fascinating here is how that specific terminology functions socially today. Historically, tall actually was a larger size back when they only had 2 options.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. But as American consumerism demanded bigger and bigger cups, they added grande and then venti, pushing tall to the very bottom of the hierarchy, but they just never changed the name.
So it became this weird secret language by accident.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
And navigating that menu, knowing the difference between a flat white and a macchiato, confidently using words like grande or venti without stumbling, it acts as a linguistic initiation ritual.
Like a shibboleth. A password that proves you belong.
Precisely. It transforms a basic economic transaction into a performance of identity. When you step up and casually order an off-menu, hyper-customized drink, you are signaling to everyone in the room that you are an insider. You have cultural awareness. You aren't just a consumer. You're someone who knows coffee house culture.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because that secret language doesn't stop at the cash register. It completely bleeds into how we interact with each other in our daily lives. Coffee has just infiltrated our idioms. Think about the universal morning declaration. I need my morning coffee.
Right. It operates as an accepted social pass. It's a polite way of saying, I am not yet ready to be held accountable as a fully functioning human being. Please give me grace.
Yeah, or the darker version of that, I'm running on coffee, which, if you think about it, is basically admitting that your body is a smartphone running entirely on a 1% backup battery.
That is painfully accurate.
Right? We're casually confessing that we are using this roasted bean extraction to chemically replace actual necessary human sleep.
And we celebrate it. We normalize chronic fatigue as long as it's fueled by caffeine. But the social currency goes way beyond just personal fuel. Let's look at the phrase, let's grab a coffee sometime, or let's do coffee.
The ultimate casual invitation, which we all know has absolutely nothing to do with the beverage. You could both order tap water, and the function of the meeting would remain exactly the same.
Because the coffee is just a socially acceptable pretext. It lowers the stakes. If you invite someone to dinner, that implies a significant commitment of time, money, and frankly, intimacy.
Sure. And a drink at a bar implies romance, or at least letting your guard down.
But coffee happens in the daytime. It's public, it's relatively inexpensive, and it has a built-in time limit.
It is the perfect escape hatch. If a first date is going terribly, you just finish your latte in 20 minutes and say you have to get back to work.
Exactly. Coffee has masked itself as a mere beverage to become an essential tool for human connection. When someone says, let's grab a coffee, they are offering you a window of their time and their undivided attention.
It even shows up as a modern form of care now. There's a whole social media trend of people saying, coffee is my love language.
Yes, I've seen that.
Like dropping a customized iced latte on your coworker's desk when they're stressed, without them asking, is an incredible demonstration of empathy. You remember their hyper-specific launch code order, and you spent your own time acquiring it for them.
Which all relies on the physical space of the cafe itself. Sociologists actually refer to this as the third place. You have your first place, which is your home. Your second place is work. The third place is the community hub, the pub, the barber shop, the cafe.
Right, the gathering spot.
Exactly. It's where people gather, exchange ideas, or just sit alone together working on laptops in a shared, comforting environment.
But we need to be careful not to view this through a purely Western lens, right? Because this idea of the third place, lounging in a plush armchair for 4 hours with your laptop, while nursing a single cold brew that is a very specific modern luxury, if you tried to do that in a traditional Italian espresso bar, you would physically be blocking traffic.
That's very true. The Italian tradition is deeply rooted in speed and efficiency. I mean, the espresso was literally invented to brew coffee faster for factory workers.
Oh, really?
Yes. In Italy, you walk up to the bar, order your shot, shoot it back while standing, exchange a quick few words with the barista, and you are out the door in 3 minutes. It is a rapid-fire daily rhythm.
Contrast that with the United States, which has a very paradoxical relationship with coffee. On one hand, you have the 4-hour laptop loungers, but on the other, the U.S. is the absolute capital of the drive-thru.
Oh, absolutely.
It's the land of the 24-ounce paper cup. We value mobility. We want our caffeine piped directly into our cars while we commute.
And then look at the UK, which was historically a tea-drinking empire, but has now seen its high streets completely taken over by a vibrant cafe scene, mostly driven by those Australian flat whites we mentioned earlier.
It's completely shifted.
It has. But to truly understand the depth of coffee's relationship with time and tradition, we have to trace it all the way back to its origins in Ethiopia.
Yes. The legend of Kalti. I have to admit, when I first learned about this in the source material, I just lost my mind laughing. The idea that this multi-billion-dollar global empire, this beverage that fuels the modern economy, all started because of some livestock. How did we get here?
It's a fantastic historical anecdote. Kaldi was an Ethiopian goat herder who noticed his flock becoming hyperactive and basically refusing to sleep after eating the red berries from a certain shrub.
Literally goats with izumis. That is the origin of coffee.
It is. He took the berries to local monks who eventually figured out how to roast and brew them to help stay awake during long evening prayers. But what's beautiful is that from that accidental discovery, Ethiopia developed a coffee culture that is the polar opposite of the Italian or American drive-through. They have the traditional Ethiopian coffee ceremony.
It is anything but fast, right?
It is deeply intentional. The host washes the raw green beans, roasts them in a pan over an open flame right in front of the guests, grinds them by hand, and brews the coffee in a traditional clay pot called a jabina.
That sounds incredible.
It is. The entire process takes hours. It's an immersive sensory experience. You smell the roasting smoke, you hear the grinding. It is a profound act of hospitality.
And as trade routes opened up, that deep reverence for the process moved into the Middle East. Which brings us to the Turkish method of brewing, which is fascinatingly distinct from Western styles.
Yes, in Turkey and the broader Middle East, they don't filter the coffee at all. They use a very fine grind, even finer than espresso, and they boil it directly with water and sugar in a small copper pot called a shev.
So it's super strong.
Very. It creates a thick, potent, sweet cup of coffee. But because there's no paper or metal filter, the grounds are poured directly right into your cup.
So you just have to wait for them to settle at the bottom like mud. And this is the best part, you don't just wash that mud out when you're done drinking.
No, not at all. The lingering grounds serve a completely different cultural purpose. Cassiography or fortune-telling.
Wow.
Yeah, when you finish your coffee, you place the saucer over the cup, make a wish, and flip it upside down. Once the cup cools, a fortune teller, or sometimes just a knowledgeable friend, will read the patterns and shapes that the dried grounds left on the sides of the cup to predict your future.
I just love the through line there. From an Ethiopian goat eating a berry, to monks staying awake, to a fortune teller reading your destiny in the leftover mud of an unfiltered cup. It's just wild.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you can really see how coffee acts as a perfect mirror for a culture's relationship with time and community.
How so?
Well, in the US and Italy, the brewing methods prioritize speed, efficiency, and mobility. The technology, the espresso machine, the paper-to-go cup, it facilitates a fast-paced life. But in the Ethiopian and Turkish traditions, the process purposefully demands time. It demands patience and communal participation. The act of making the coffee is the event.
It's not just the fuel to get you to the next event. It really puts that lukewarm drive-through cup sitting in your car's cup holder into perspective, doesn't it?
It does. It reminds us that whether you're rushing to a morning meeting or sitting down for a 2-hour ceremony, the underlying human desire to participate in a shared ritual remains exactly the same.
So what does this all mean? We started this deep dive, staring at the intimidating, almost incomprehensible menu of a modern cafe. But as we've explored the chemistry of the roast, the mechanics of the grind, and, the linguistics of the order, it becomes clear that coffee is so much more than hot bean water.
Much more.
It is a performance. It's the specific Maillard reaction that dictates the flavor. It's the linguistic gymnastics we perform to prove we belong to the in-group at the register. And most importantly, it's the social contract we enter into when we use those magical words. Let's grab a coffee sometime.
It is the ultimate socially acceptable excuse to gather, to pause, and to share space with another human being.
Exactly. So I want to challenge you, the listener. The next time you walk into a cafe, resist the urge to just put your headphones on and stare at your phone. Pay attention to the mechanics of the rituals playing out in front of you. Listen to the hyper-specific customizations. Watch how people navigate the space. Recognize that you are actively participating in a global, centuries-old tradition that connects you to an Ethiopian goat herder and an Italian factory worker alike.
And as you think about that tradition of gathering, I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder. Throughout our discussion, we've highlighted coffee as the ultimate physical excuse to connect, to gather in a third place.
Right.
But we are living in an era where work is increasingly remote, digital, and isolated. The physical office coffee break, the classic water cooler moment, is disappearing for millions of people.
Yeah, that's true.
So what happens to coffee house culture in the digital age if let's grab a coffee turns into merely holding your own mug in your own kitchen while staring at a coworker on a video call? Do we lose the magic of that shared community space? Or are we inevitably going to invent an entirely new social ritual to replace the one we're leaving behind?
A question definitely worth poring over. Think about that the next time you hear the grinding of those beans and you take that first essential sip. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.